Part 6. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 51. Half an hour later, Fukang returned to the princess mansion. He walked to the window and paused for a moment. There was no movement in the dormitory. He opened the window very gently and slipped in like a gust of wind. He was about to go back to bed when he suddenly heard a cold question, "It's late at night." "Yes, where have you gone?" Fukang's body stiffened, and the next moment he was kneeling in front of the bed. "This subordinate deserves to die." The air was quiet for a moment. Chu Qinghuang slowly sat up from the bed and ordered, "Hold the lamp." Fukang stood up and lit a lamp, turned around and knelt down again. Chu Qinghuang leaned on the edge of the bed, her eyebrows as cold as snow. "What are you doing up so late at night?" Fukang was silent for a moment. "This subordinate deserves to die." "You know my temper." Chu Qinghuang frowned. "I don't have the patience to ask you over and over again." Fukang pursed his lips. "My subordinate went to Prince Jin's mansion. The third prince Chu Tianyan was named king of Jin." Chu Qinghuang asked, "Why are you going to Prince Jin's mansion?" "I did something." Fukang lowered his head and said, "This subordinate left his side without permission from his master, and also offended his master. This subordinate deserves to die." Chu Qinghuang looked at his respectful and docile attitude, and after pondering for a moment, she roughly guessed what he had done. As her personal bodyguard, his act of leaving without authorization tonight was just dereliction of duty, but his daring to touch her sleeping area was considered treason, and according to the rules, it was punishable by death. However, this man had only been out of the sea of misery for a few days. Naturally, Chu Qinghuang would not punish him with the harsh punishments in the dark pavilion. He only said lightly, "Since you don't want to sleep, just kneel here." With that said, she lay down on the bed again. Fukang raised his eyes and glanced at her, then lowered his eyes, kneeling as silently as a shadow. Even the sound of his breathing was almost suppressed into nothingness. He looked tame and well behaved, without the ferocity and cruelty of killing people at all. "His Highness is really much gentler than before," he thought to himself. He made such a big mistake tonight, and he just kneeled down as punishment. If it were in the past, the punishment would not stop until he was beaten until his skin was torn apart and he was dying. Chu Qinghuang's eyebrows moved slightly. "Gentle? Even though she was punished to kneel down, you still think she is gentle?" Well, given that his previous life was too miserable, Chu Qinghuang said that he could understand his thoughts, but in this way, it seemed that he couldn't even bear to let him kneel. So Chu Qinghuang didn't embarrass herself and quickly followed her heart. "Kneel down for half an hour and calculate the time by yourself." Yes. There was only one light in the inner hall, and the light was a bit dim. Kneeling for half an hour was not difficult for the shadow person, and it was no different from hiding alone in a corner. Fukang remembered the order and secretly counted the time. Half an hour later, he raised his head and glanced at Chu Qinghuang. Her Royal Highness the Princess had her eyes closed and seemed to have fallen asleep. Her sleeping Highness looked more and more beautiful, with porcelain white and flawless skin, so tender that she could squeeze water out of her eyes. The eyelashes are very long and curled, making her look a little colder for no reason. Fukang got up and went to the back to wash himself from head to toe and changed into clean black clothes before returning to the palace. He stood in front of the couch and hesitated for a moment, wondering whether he should sleep on the brocade couch or sleep on His Highness's bed. He soon made his decision. Fukang quietly walked into the inner room, his body as light as catkins, and lay down next to Chu Qinghuang gently. He was still sleeping in a standard and obedient sleeping position with his hands on his abdomen. But when he fell asleep, he couldn't help but move towards a warm place. Hugging his slender waist and smelling the familiar reassuring breath, Fukang quickly fell into a deep sleep. Chu Qinghuang opened her eyes, glanced at his hand, and quickly closed her eyes as if nothing happened. She didn't know exactly what he did tonight, and she didn't bother to question him, but she knew that Fuqiang going to Prince Jin's mansion was definitely not a good thing for Chu Tianyin. In the final analysis, the reason should be that she was there today. The assassination of the Wen family. This guy is out for revenge. The night passed quickly. The first half of the night passed in a busy manner, and the second half of the night was even shorter, because the gate of Yinshi Palace had been opened and the ministers had begun to go to court one after another. Chu Qinghuang only slept for less than 2 hours. The Hong family was still in custody, evidence needed to be submitted, and many things needed to be dealt with urgently. She didn't have much time to rest. After getting up to wash up, Fuqiang lowered his eyebrows and lowered his eyes as he waited for her to change clothes. When the two of them stepped out of the Dongshang pavilion, news came from outside that something had happened in Prince Jin's mansion. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 52. Your Highness. Minjiao carried the medicine bag and hurriedly walked to Chu Qinghuang and bowed her knees. There is news from outside that King Jin has killed the princess. King Jin killed the princess? Chu Qinghuang's expression paused, and she subconsciously turned to look at Fuqiang beside her. Fuqiang lowered his eyebrows and lowered his eyes, as if he had not heard Minjiao's words, and there was no expression fluctuation on his face. What's going on? Chu Qinghuang looked away and looked at Minjiao. Minjiao lowered her voice. I heard that King Jin slept with the princess last night. When he got up early today, the princess was not around. King Jin was suspicious. Not long after he got up, he found that the princess was having an affair with someone. He drew his sword in anger. Kill both the princess and the man. Chu Qinghuang. The arm of the minister of the Ministry of Finance was cut off last night, and he was found to have been cuckolded this morning. 2 huge changes happened in just one night. I wonder if King Jin's heart can withstand such a great stimulation. I know. Chu Qinghuang glanced at the medicine bag in her hand. Go and boil some medicine. Yes, Minjiao nodded. There are still 2 pills of medicine that His Highness brought back before. After drinking this pill, only 1 pill is left for the night. Do you want to continue taking it tomorrow? Chu Qinghuang said, continue. I will go to the Imperial Hospital to get medicine tonight. Yes. Minjiao resigned and left. Chu Qinghuang walked towards the outside of the princess's residence and said as he walked, did you do it? Princess Jin is the daughter of King Jinbei. She and Chu Tianyin are in the same league. Fuqiang said, if Chu Tianyin killed his own princess, King Jinbei will not let him go. Chu Tianyin wanted Chu Qinghuang to be assassinated in the Wen family and put the blame on Wen Zhengyun, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and Fuqiang killed 2 birds with 1 stone in return. Chu Tianyin would not only become the laughing stock of the imperial city and be questioned by the emperor, but he would also turn against King Jinbei and lose his support as his father-in-law who held military power. Chu Qinghuang glanced at him and said, you are not stupid. Killing someone with a borrowed knife will turn them into enemies. These scandals all occurred within the Jin Palace. Whether it was an affair or the murder of his wife, it had nothing to do with anyone else. Put people to death without leaving any evidence. This recruitment without bloodshed is really powerful. Fuqiang remained silent. Chu Qinghuang didn't think about the affairs of Prince Jin's palace anymore. Even though Chu Tianyin was out of control now and the palace was shrouded in gloom, it was none of her business at the moment. Arriving at the gate of the Hong family, the guards guarding the Hong family's mansion saluted her. Chu Qinghuang walked into the gate and saw the shackled young and old Hong family. She said calmly, put Hong Shangshu in custody and take all the dirty silver lifted up and follow me into the palace to meet the saint. Yes. Chu Qinghuang got on his horse, and hundreds of guards carried heavy wooden boxes toward the palace. The atmosphere in this morning's court was very depressing, and there was an uneasy atmosphere permeating the hall. The emperor was sitting on the dragon chair, looking at the ministers with different expressions below, and smiled coldly, Princess Xianchang. The eunuch shouted loudly, "Princess Xianchang comes to the palace." Under the gaze of everyone, Chu Qinghuang, dressed in a dark red dress, walked in calmly. Her figure was slender and majestic, and her eyebrows were indifferent. The girl, who was only 15 years old, actually exuded a heart-stopping coercion from her body, which was different from the past. Their impression of Chu Qinghuang had undergone earth-shaking changes. Behind her, the guards carried heavy boxes up to the hall. The ministers watched in silence, some were surprised, some were shocked, and some were uneasy. Are these all copied from Shangshu Mansion? This is the property that I took from the Hong family last night. Chu Qinghuang glanced slightly and said in a cold and ruthless voice, "My lords, you can take a good look at whether I have wronged him." Hong Shangshu knelt in the hall, his face pale and decadent, and his eyes had lost their luster. The standard salary for a second-rank official in this dynasty is 400 taels per year. In addition to diligent service awards, performance rewards, and additional rewards from the king, all wrapped together, Hong Shangshu should not be able to receive more than 1,000 taels of silver per year. Chu Qinghuang's tone was cold and clear, but excluding jade, silk, calligraphy, and painting and other things that are temporarily difficult to value, these boxes contain as much as 700,000 taels of gold and silver, which is worth as much as Ziki Estate's tax money for 1 year. Those of you who want to plead for Hong Shangshu and accuse him of being wronged can first explain the origin of this huge amount of money. All civil and military officials were silent, and no one dared to intercede for Hong Shangshu at this time. Even though many people already hated Chu Qinghuang, and some were trembling in fear, facing the boxes of irrefutable evidence placed in the main hall, they couldn't even express the reason of framing the blame. If an account book can be framed and a letter can be framed, but with so much money, boxes of gold, silver, jade, antiques, calligraphy and paintings all found from the Hong family, how can they frame it? Who has such a great ability to put so many things into the Hong family without anyone noticing? Hong Qingjai, the emperor's tone was cold and angry. "What do you have to say?" "I is guilty, I am innocent, I have nothing to say, please, your majesty." "Since you have nothing to say, you don't need to beg me." The emperor's brows were filled with murderous intent. "Here comes someone. Put Hong Shangshu's family on death row and behead him in the future." Hong Shangshu's vision went dark, and his limp body was escorted out without any resistance. He didn't even have the strength to beg for mercy. There was a deathly silence in the main hall. 800,000 taels, the emperor sneered. "This is an eye-opener for me." The ministers knelt down and shouted, "Your Majesty." The emperor took a deep breath, controlled his emotions, and said coldly, "I have given Qinghuang full power to investigate and deal with corrupt officials. No matter who is investigated next, others are not allowed to obstruct it, otherwise they will be punished with the same crime." The officials were startled and felt increasingly uneasy. "Where is the third prince?" The emperor searched around among the princes, but did not see Chu Tianyin. "He didn't come to court today." "Report to the emperor." The personal eunuch turned around and lowered his voice. "Something happened in Prince Jin's mansion." Seeing his hesitant speech, the emperor frowned and said, "What happened? Is it possible that he was frightened by Hong Shangshu's corruption and did not dare to come?" Prince Jin killed the princess." "What?" The emperor's expression suddenly changed. He was frightened and angry. "What's going on?" The ministers thumped and looked up at the emperor uneasily. "What's going on? What did Eunuch Chen say that made the emperor so angry?" "I got up early today and probably heard something about the situation," Chu Qinghuang said indifferently. "After King Jing got up in the morning, he found that the princess had done something he shouldn't have done. He accidentally killed the princess in anger. I have important matters to attend to, and I haven't yet found out what's going on." As soon as the statement came out, the civil and military officials in the court were shocked. King Jin accidentally killed the princess? Princess Ji is the daughter of King Jinbei. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 53. Today's morning is destined to be restless, with one wave rising after another. Hong Qingjai, the secretary of the Ministry of Revenue, has just been thrown into death row, and something big has happened in the Jin Palace. Even if no one dares to spread rumors about his master, there are so many people in the palace, so how easy is it to control such a big thing? The news spread in one morning. Almost everyone in the imperial city knew that King Jin accidentally killed his own princess. Various versions of rumors spread quietly. King Jin caught Princess Jin having an affair with someone in the palace, and King Jin caught him. A green cloud shrouded the head, and he killed the adulterer in a fit of anger. This huge scandal cannot be concealed even if it is wanted. The emperor was furious and ordered Chu Qinghuang to put all the copied silver into the treasury, sort out all the evidence and account books, and send them to the imperial study room, and then announced the disbandment of the court. After the dispersion of the dynasty, the emperor summoned Chu Tianyan to the palace urgently. While the ministers were frightened, the officials of the Feng clan, headed by the prime minister, all had solemn and uneasy expressions, as if the sky was about to fall, and they even looked at Chu Qinghuang with frightened and cold eyes. The harem was even more lively. The queen mother is old and always wakes up early. The female officials help her change clothes. Several maids carry basins and other toiletries and stand respectfully aside, waiting to serve the queen mother. The empress and the imperial concubine arrive just before they burn the incense. They are waiting outside with all the concubines in the harem, waiting to pay their respects to the empress dowager. The queen mother frowned. Why did they come so early today? My servant doesn't know very well, the female officer whispered, with a bit of caution in her tone, but something big happened last night, and His Majesty got very angry this morning. Get angry? The queen mother's expression darkened. What happened last night? Why didn't the AI family hear anything about it? Last night, the emperor ordered the commander of the imperial army to lock the palace door. News from outside could not reach the palace. The female officer lowered her head to arrange her clothes, and her tone became more cautious. I heard that the eldest princess brought someone to bring the Minister of Household Affairs to the palace last night. Hong Qingjai's home was raided. The queen mother's expression suddenly changed. Hong family. Yes. The queen mother did not speak, but her expression became visibly gloomier. The palace door was locked early. Who was the emperor guarding against? The queen mother, Feng Ping, the personal eunuch, hurried into the inner hall. Something happened outside. The queen mother said angrily, what happened again? A murder occurred in Prince Jin's mansion. His Highness Prince Jin accidentally killed the princess, by mistake. The queen mother's vision went dark and she almost fell over. The queen mother, please calm down. Feng Ping quickly held her arm. The queen mother, please take care of your body. All the people in the palace immediately knelt on the ground. The queen mother, please take care of your body. Outside the Renchao palace, the concubines in the harem, headed by the queen, stood quietly. Among them, the queen looked graceful and luxurious, concubine Duan looked leisurely, concubine Duan looked pale and gloomy, concubine Xian had nothing to do with herself, and the other low-ranking concubines all looked respectful. Eyebrows slightly lowered, and strictly abiding by the rules that a concubine should have when greeting her. Concubine Feng's mood was like an ant on a hot pot. If the raid on the house of Minister of the Ministry of Finance only made her furious, and she was so angry that she cursed the bitch Chu Qinghuang continuously, then the incident in Prince Jin's palace was enough to make her panic and uneasy. Tianyan was cuckolded and even killed his own princess with his own hands. These two things were enough to ruin all her years of planning. For any man, being cuckolded will make him lose his mind. It is a great shame and humiliation. What's more, if it happens to a noble prince, it is simply a royal scandal. But compared to killing the princess with his own hands, scandals have to be put aside. Concubine Feng Gaifei thought about her son's future situation, and her heart felt like it was on fire, and suddenly she fell into an ice cellar. Originally, the Queen Mother arranged the marriage with King Zhenbei for him, hoping to get some help in the future, but the help has not yet been received. But she died. She didn't even know how it happened. Hearing the bad news in the morning, she hurriedly changed her clothes and went to see the Queen Mother. Unexpectedly, the Queen and concubine Duan also got up early for the first time and rushed to pay their respects to the Queen Mother. Concubine Feng's heart was full of hatred. They must have done it on purpose, to watch her laugh, to not want her to be alone with the Queen Mother, to delay her time to ask for help. When concubine Duan was talking to her, the gloating in her eyes was almost written on her face. She was gentle and dignified. Damn gentleness and demureness. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 54. In the Imperial Study Room. The Emperor sat on the dragon throne, suppressing his anger and asked, "What is going on?" "I missed it." Chu Tianyan knelt on the ground with a pale expression, and said in a dull tone, "I really lost my mind." "Missed?" The Emperor was furious. "Your princess is the legitimate daughter of the king of Zhenbei. Can you solve this matter by just saying miss? Tell me, how should I explain to the king of Zhenbei?" Chu Tianyan lowered his head and said nothing. His mind was in turmoil now, and he had no idea how things could become like this. Obviously he and the princess were fine last night, and they discussed a plan to deal with Chu Qinghuang. However, when he woke up in the morning, he found that the princess was sleeping with the commander of the guards. At that moment, anger overwhelmed his mind. He felt like he was covered by a green cloud. He had no intention of thinking about whether this matter was reasonable or if there was something wrong with it. He raised his sword and killed the two people together. Blood splashed on his face, and the warm and sticky feeling made him feel sick. This incident alarmed the servants in the palace. Out of control, he sat there in a daze for a while before he realized what he had done. He hurriedly ordered people to go to the imperial doctor, but MRSG was stabbed in the chest with a sword that penetrated her heart. She lost all her breath. Everything was irreversible. Chu Tianyan felt as if a stone had been pressed on his heart, and his mind was groggy. He felt like he had a nightmare, and he couldn't believe that this would happen to him. "Your Majesty, the eldest princess is here," Chen Hai reported. "Your Majesty, do you want His Majesty to come in now?" His Majesty the Emperor closed his eyes, suppressed his anger and nodded. Chen Hai then personally welcomed Chu Qinghuang in. Stepping into the threshold of the imperial study room, Chu Qinghuang didn't even look at Chu Tianyan who was kneeling beside him. He walked directly to the dragon case and put the account books and lists in his hands on the case. In addition to gold and silver, calligraphy, painting, and jade articles, silks, antiques, etc. have all been counted, and all the evidence of the crimes of the Minister of Revenue are also here. The list of officials involved with the Ministry of Revenue has been sorted out, and the Emperor can take a look at it later. The Emperor looked at the evidence in front of him, took it and flipped it over casually, and breathed out softly, "Qinghuang, you did this beautifully. I don't even know how to reward you." "There is no need to reward me. This is a promise I have made long ago," Chu Qinghuang said calmly. "The reward has been given before." The Emperor nodded. Yes, he had already given the reward in advance. He made an exception and gave her the title and privileges of the eldest princess. The secret pavilion was temporarily under her control. She was just doing what she promised. But the Emperor was still happy. Although Chu Tianyan caused such a big incident, which dampened his happiness, in general, the destruction of the House of Secretary of the Ministry of Revenue was a good start, which represented King Huang's courage and growing confidence in the future. Good atmosphere. Thank you for your hard work last night. The emperor rubbed his brows. You go back and rest first. I will arrange the next thing. Chu Qinghuang nodded. By the way, the emperor raised his eyes and looked at her. The position of Minister of the Ministry of Revenue is vacant. Do you have a suitable person to recommend? Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment and frowned slightly. Is this an extra reward? It doesn't count, the emperor smiled. If you have a suitable candidate, I can take it as a reference. Chu Qinghuang nodded. My son has been very fond of Wen Zhan recently. Wen Zhan? The emperor heard this name and did not remember which official's name it was. His father is Wen Xingyun, the Minister of Household Affairs. Chu Qinghuang said, if my father has other suitable candidates, he can be promoted first. If not, just mention Wen Xingyun. Wen Zhan is good, and his father should not be much different. Go. The emperor was silent for a while. Who to bring up now was secondary. What he was silent about was Chu Qinghuang's attitude and tone. Is Wen Zhan good? He thought about it carefully and found that Wen Zhan seemed to be Wen Xingyun's second son, and he was also a concubine. He was once forcibly admitted into the palace by Chu Qinghuang because of his good looks, so his current identity should be one of King Huang's servants. In addition to him, there should be several other servants in the princess mansion. The emperor remembered King Huang's ridiculous behavior before. After Feng Jinzi was brought into the princess's palace, he began to correct his evil ways and return to righteousness. He no longer accepted the emperor as his servant, and the four young masters no longer had any sense of presence in the princess's palace. Unexpectedly, after Feng Jinzi fell out of favor, Wen Zhan would show up. With his brows furrowed, the emperor couldn't help but wonder if Qinghuang had fallen in love with someone else. When he liked Feng Jin in the past, he always attached great importance to the Feng family and the third prince, even her mother and concubine, but now Feng Jin's after losing favor, she started to like Wen Zhan and was going to start promoting the Wen family again. Is this really good? Ahem, the emperor coughed lightly. Qinghuang. Chu Qinghuang looked at him silently. It's nothing, the emperor suppressed what he wanted to say. In that case, let Wen Xingyun take over the position of minister. He has enough qualifications. Although Wen Xingyun's ability is not very good, for King Huang's sake, it is not impossible to mention him. The foundation of the Wen family is still shallow. There is no need to worry about him following in the footsteps of Hong Shangshu within 2 years. If he develops his appetite in the future, well, let's see how long Qinghuang can like this Wen family concubine. When her feelings for him fade away, it will be dealt with when the time comes. Chu Tianyan knelt aside, listening to the conversation between the emperor and Chu Qinghuang, and his heart was almost extremely angry. Chu Qinghuang. If it hadn't been for her, the house of Secretary of the Ministry of Revenue would not have collapsed. Why support Wen Xingyun for Wen Zhan? What a joke. She was simply planning for Chu Tianzheng. Who doesn't know that the Wen family is part of concubine Duan's party? There is one more thing, Chu Qinghuang said calmly. Last night, I accompanied Wen Zhan to the Wen family to celebrate his father's birthday, and met an assassin at the Wen family. Chu Tianyan's heart tightened. Assassin? The emperor was startled and looked Chu Qinghuang up and down. Are you injured? Who sent the assassin? Have you found out? My son can probably guess who it is, father. Don't worry, Chu Qinghuang said, turning to look at Chu Tianyan. It's not that easy to kill my son. Chu Tianyan clenched his hands unconsciously. Was this sentence meant for him? After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 55. Chu Qinghuang did not stay in the imperial study for too long. She was busy for half the night last night and got up early this morning. She wanted to go back and catch up on some sleep. The matter in Hong Shangshu's mansion has come to an end. Whether the case will be tried or the investigation will continue is the matter of the Ministry of Punishment. It is also up to the emperor to decide whether Hong family members should continue to investigate or let go. She didn't want to get involved. It was already past breakfast time when we returned to the princess mansion, and we would have lunch in an hour. However, the eldest princess mansion did not have strict time regulations, so you could eat whenever you wanted. Chu Qing Huang went to take a hot bath first, changed her clothes, and sat down to eat refreshingly. Minjiao also cooked the medicine and brought it over and put it on the table. Fukang sat down next to Chu Qing Huang. Before he started drinking a bowl of medicine, there was a sound of footsteps outside. The moment Chu Qing Huang raised her eyes, she was almost dazzled. She saw the 4 young masters who used to live in seclusion walked in together. They were tall, elegant, and handsome, and they were quite eye-catching at first glance. Entering the palace, the 4 of them elegantly lifted their clothes and saluted, "See your Royal Highness, the eldest princess." Chu Qing Huang said nothing and looked at them silently. The white clothes are refined, the blue clothes are elegant, the red clothes are bright, and the cloud clothes are indifferent. The appearance is good, the clothes are good, and the demeanor is different. It is indeed a good visual enjoyment. However, Chu Qing Huang frowned. "What are you doing?" Mr. Wen said that Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, has a distinguished status and is the head of the house. As servants to the king, according to the rules, we should prepare for the morning and dusk and pay greetings to Her Highness. The young man in white said respectfully, "If we can go with Her Royal Highness, breakfast would be great." Chu Qing Huang's eyes fell on Wen Zhan's face. "This is indeed what I think," Wen Zhan said humbly. "I saw the wise and mighty demeanor of Her Royal Highness the eldest princess last night, and was deeply impressed by Her Majesty's courage. After careful consideration, Wen Zhan is willing to serve Your Highness. I just hope that His Highness will show you some love and affection from time to time." "Occasionally showing some affection?" Chu Qing Huang said calmly. "I don't have time to pity you." "What did His Highness say?" The young man in red seemed a little aggrieved. "We are all His Highness's servants. When His Highness forced us into the mansion, He did not say that we would be left out in the cold." "Of?" Chu Qing Huang said expressionlessly. So. Hong Yu said weakly, "So Your Highness, shouldn't he be exposed to both rain and dew?" The air fell silent. Chu Qing Huang put down her chopsticks and raised her hand to rub her eyebrows. She really wanted to cut open this boy's head to see what weird thoughts he had in his head. Both rain and dew are touched? Listen, is this what a normal man should say? I was busy in the middle of the night last night. I got up and entered the palace before dawn this morning. I have to catch up on my sleep later, Chu Qing Huang said in a calm tone, "So I don't have time to deal with you today, so I will do whatever I need to do." Hong Yu's expression changed slightly. "Your Highness, what you mean is that you can wait until His Highness has rested?" Chu Qing Huang didn't speak, his eyes passed over the 4 of them silently, and after a moment, he asked a seemingly unrelated question, "Who is the richest among the 4 of you?" "Well, how to answer this question? I am the poorest." Hong Yu took a step to the side. "Have you forgotten, Your Highness? Your Highness bought me from a human trafficker. I am an orphan without a father or mother. I have nothing, let alone money." Chu Qing Huang narrowed his eyes. "I am the concubine of the Wen family, and His Highness knows it." Wen Zhan smiled. "I have always been short of money and not very rich. Fortunately, my life was quite comfortable when I lived in the princess mansion, and the servants did not make things difficult for me. 3 meals a day is not a problem, and we don't have many places to spend money, so we don't have to worry about making ends meet." Chu Qing Huang's lips twitched. "Although I have some savings, I'm not willing to spend them." Qi Ling frowned. "As Wen Zhan said, we live in the princess's mansion, and our food and clothing are sent to us. We don't have much to spend money on, so we start from home." I still have more than half of the 100 taels I brought. 100 taels? Chu Qinghuang's expression was subtle. Report to your highness. The last one to speak was Zhong Jin, who was courteous and elegant. I know that you don't have any money either. Chu Qinghuang accepted his words calmly, so the biggest benefit of entering the princess's mansion is that you will have no worries about food and clothing from now on. The four of them looked shocked. Your highness, Holy Ming. Then who can explain to me, which god gave you the red crocodile gauze, Sichuan brocade robes, satin robes, and sky silk snow clothes you are wearing? Chu Qinghuang raised his eyes, his voice was cold and indifferent. 3 concubines, an orphan, but the clothes he wears are better than those of the heirs of serious families in the imperial capital. You are really so poor that it makes people sit up and take notice. As soon as the words fell, the hall fell into silence. Hongyu. Chu Qinghuang looked at the first young man who cried out for poverty. The clothes you are wearing are made of South China Sea shark gauze. It is light and elegant and will not get wet in the water. It is said that you can get one every few years and it is worth thousands of gold. You first explain to me. Hongyu glanced at her silently, with an innocent look in his dark eyes. Your highness, I really don't know anything. Where did your clothes come from? Picked up. Kneel down. Hongyu pursed his lips and knelt down in a grieved manner. Chu Qinghuang turned his eyes slightly and looked at Qi Ling. Ahem. Qi Ling coughed lightly and said before Chu Qinghuang asked, I picked it up too. After that, she knelt down. Chu Qinghuang. Shenzongjin hesitated. I don't know if the clothes I'm wearing are worth money. Definitely more than 100 taels. Shenzongjin choked and knelt down without saying a word. Chu Qinghuang frowned and looked at Wenzhan, who gave you your clothes? Wenzhan silently lifted his clothes and knelt down, speechless. You have more than this set of clothes, Chu Qinghuang said indifferently. The last time you had dinner with me, the clothes you wore were also made of rare treasures, so until you give me a reasonable explanation, just kneel like this. You can afford such expensive materials, but you cry poor in front of her? According to their status as unfavored bastards of aristocratic families, and their situation of being neglected since entering the princess's mansion, it is reasonable for them to wear blue clothes and cloth shirts. However, looking at the clothes and demeanor of the 4 people in front of them, I'm afraid that someone would believe that they are princes and nobles. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 56. After saying this, Chu Qinghuang turned his eyes slightly and landed on Fukang. Fukang pursed his lips and said, my subordinate's clothes are uniforms issued by the Ange Shadow Guards. His clothes are really worthless. He is wearing a thin black suit, which is convenient for movement and hiding at night. Both the Grand Instructor and the Shadow Guard wear the same color clothes. The only difference is that the Grand Instructor wears a triple collar. Fukang, the number 1 master, wear a double collar, while other ordinary Shadow Guards wear a single collar. In the future, if you stay with me, you will have to go to various occasions frequently. It is not good to always wear black clothes, Chu Qinghuang said. Let the people from the Shanghai Bureau come over later and make 2 sets of clothes for you. Your Highness, this is unfair. Hongyu raised his eyes. Why can Fukang get special privileges? Chu Qinghuang looked at him expressionlessly. You want to take my place? Ah! Hongyu was stunned and quickly shook his head. I don't dare, little one. Shut up if you don't dare, Chu Qinghuang said. This is my palace. Whoever I want to give privileges will have privileges. Whoever I want to die will not survive tonight. Hong Yu shrank his neck and said weakly, I still think His Highness should be exposed to both rain and dew. Isn't Wen Zhan favored recently? Qi Ling turned his head and looked at Mr. Wen, who was kneeling next to him. Why do I see that His Highness doesn't seem to be particularly special to you? Wen Zhan was silent for a moment. Your Highness's love for me is just like a flash in the pan. Chu Qinghuang didn't say anything and ate calmly. But has His Highness forgotten something? Qi Ling raised his eyes. His Highness said that he was going to divorce the consort a few days ago. Why hasn't he done anything yet? The consort will not return his favor, right? No movement yet? Chu Qinghuang didn't pay attention to what was going on in the backyard in the past 2 days. Hearing this, he frowned. No one from the Feng family came to take him back. No. Chu Qinghuang hummed, finished his breakfast without saying a word, moved to the window and drank a cup of tea. Fu Kang, prepare your pen and ink. Fu Kang takes orders. Chu Qinghuang spread out a piece of rice paper on the writing desk, and just as he picked up the pen to write the word letter of divorce, there was another sound of footsteps outside. Your Highness, the Prince Consort wishes to see you. Chu Qinghuang paused slightly and said indifferently, let him come in. It came just in time to save her from sending someone to deliver the divorce papers. Feng Jinzi walked in. He was dressed in brocade clothes and jade robes that made him look like a jade tree facing the wind. His appearance was handsome and elegant, and his face was still a little pale, but he seemed to have recovered to 50% to 60%. At least he could walk without any problem. His eyes glanced at the 4 people kneeling in rows in the hall. Feng Jinzi quickly looked at Chu Qinghuang, who was sitting in front of the pear tree desk and seemed to be writing something. His expression was cold, a little gloomy, like the sky. Dark clouds weighing down heavily. Chu Qinghuang, he said coldly, are you taking revenge on me? Fu Kang looked up at him, his eyes as cold as swords, and murderous intent flashed in his eyes. The 4 servants who were kneeling as punishment all frowned. Isn't this prince-in-law a fool? At this time, you still dare to verbally provoke Her Royal Highness the eldest princess. Probably because you are worried that you will not die quickly enough. He is not worried that he will die slowly. Qi Ling shook his head unhurriedly, but he thinks that he is the most beautiful man in the world, and he self-righteously imagines that His Highness still has feelings for him. All the things that happen outside are His Highness's fault. To attract his attention and force him to submit. Hong Yu curled her lips, the peacock is not as narcissistic as him. The 4 of them whispered openly, and although their tone was not high, they absolutely ensured that everyone in the hall could hear them clearly. Feng Jinzi's face was as cold as frost. If looks could kill, these 4 servants would probably have been pierced by thousands of arrows at this time. Feng Jinzi, if I were you, you should kneel down and salute respectfully at this moment. The best thing to do is to be humble. Chu Qinghuang put down the pen and spoke indifferently, you dare to show off your strength in front of me, and it won't make me think you are tough, but it will have the opposite effect. Feng Jinzi clenched his hands into fists and stared at Chu Qinghuang coldly, you just want to force me to kneel down. Forcing you? Chu Qinghuang frowned slightly, with a hint of mockery in his voice, Fu Kang, teach him the rules. As soon as he finished speaking, a black shadow flashed in front of his eyes. Bang! Before Feng Jinzi had time to react, a familiar sharp pain hit him in the pit of his knee. He fell forward uncontrollably, and his knee hit the ground hard. The pain instantly made his eyesight become black and his face turned pale. It took a long time to recover. Hong Yu shivered, it hurts. Qi Ling turned his head and looked at him, it's not you who kicked me. Why does it hurt you? Hong Yu said, it hurts just looking at it. Just be good in the future. Wen Zhan took a breath and said calmly, otherwise, you will be the next one to suffer. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula. Push, Mode, thumbs feed -01, container, Taboola below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 57. So if I want you to kneel down, do you still need to use force? Chu Qing Huang looked at Feng Jinzi's painful expression and said with an expressionless face, Feng Jinzi, you haven't recognized it until now. Own identity. Feng Jinzi's face was twisted in pain. After a long while, he raised his face covered in cold sweat and said, you. Take this divorce letter, pack your things and leave my palace immediately. From today on, you will no longer have any relationship with me. Chu Qing Huang picked up the written divorce letter, walked around the desk, and threw the letter of divorce to Feng Jinzi. From now on, remember the difference between superiority and inferiority. If you see me being rude again, just think that I am in a good mood. If you meet me in a bad mood, you will consider yourself unlucky. Feng Jinzi's expression froze, and he slowly looked at the divorce letter that fell in front of him. His eyes seemed to be looking at some monster, and he did not move for a long time. Chu Qing Huang ignored him and said indifferently, everyone go out and kneel. Don't disturb me from resting. Hong Yu weakly raised his head, Your Highness, how long do we need to kneel? Wait until you figure it out and are willing to tell me the truth. Hong Yu is innocent, what I said is the truth. Go out. Hong Yu pursed his lips, silently stood up and walked out. The other three people walked out without saying a word, but Feng Jinzi remained in the hall, as if making a final death struggle. It's a pity that Chu Qing Huang didn't intend to give him a chance to struggle. Fu Kang, throw him out. Yes. Fu Kang grabbed the back of Feng Jinzi's neck with one hand, picked up the divorce letter on the ground with the other, and walked out quickly. When he walked outside the palace gate, Fu Kang obviously had no sympathy for her. He stuffed the letter of divorce into Feng Jinzi's arms, then threw Feng Jinzi down the palace steps, letting him roll down. Fu Kang turned around and entered the palace, closing the door behind him. This set of movements was performed as neatly as flowing water, without any sloppiness. It was so neat that Feng Jinzi didn't even think of resisting until he rolled down the steps. Of course, even if he wanted to resist, he didn't have the ability to resist. The four kneeling servants who changed places remained silent and looked at Feng Jinzi, who had rolled down not far away from them with complicated eyes, as if they had 1,000 words to say but didn't know where to start. Why hasn't he responded? Hong Yu frowned, isn't he dead? Qi Ling looked at it for a while and guessed, maybe the bones were broken. His bones are like porcelain, so easy to break. Zhong Zongjin didn't think so. He must have hit his head and fainted. Wen Zhan frowned, Your Highness doesn't seem to know how to show mercy to women. Is he fragrant or jade? Wen Zhan was silent for a moment. How long do you think he will be unconscious for? Half an hour. An hour. Let's make a bet, Hong Yu said, I'll bet 100 taels that he will wake up soon. 100 taels, and I bet he's pretending to be dead. Where did you get so much money? Wen Zhan smiled, Hong Yu, if you have thought about how to explain to His Highness, why not go now? After the explanation, we don't have to continue kneeling. As soon as these words came out, the other three people immediately became quiet. After a while, Hong Yu frowned, did anyone talk about money just now? Qi Ling shook his head, no. So when Zhan heard it wrong, Hong Yu said in an extremely relaxed tone, where did we get 100 taels? We don't even have 100 coins. Then how do you explain that we are wearing valuable clothes? Zhong Jin worried, if you can't explain it, you have to keep kneeling. If you kneel like this, will your legs be broken? Wen Zhan sighed, I am a weak scholar. There was a squeak. The palace door was opened from the inside, revealing Fu Kang's unusually handsome but also extremely cold face. Your Highness has an order, whoever chatters again will be rewarded with 100 whips. After the words fell, everyone finally fell silent. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 58. Fukang Chu-Ching Huang leaned on the bedside and looked at his shadow guard calmly. Aside from the fact that these 4 servants in this palace are all beautiful men, each of them seems to have a little secret hidden in them. I don't like the feeling of being kept in the dark. Fukang lowered his eyes. I'm going to check. No need for the time being, Chu-Ching Huang said calmly. I want them to say it themselves. Fukang should be. Chu-Ching Huang stood up and stood in front of the window, looking at the people kneeling quietly outside the window, thinking secretly about their origins. In addition to their apparent status as concubines and orphans, they definitely have an unknown second level identity. Maybe you can use mind reading to find out. However, Chu-Ching Huang is not in a hurry. Just like Wen Zhan said intuitively before, she can now feel intuitively that these 4 people should not have any ulterior motives. At least for the time being, there are no shady intentions. Turning his eyes slightly, Chu-Ching Huang looked at Feng Jinzi, who was thrown out by Fukang. Is he still unconscious? Chu-Ching Huang was a little impatient and was about to speak when he saw Feng Jinzi's body suddenly move. 4 pairs of eyes immediately fell on him, staring at him as if they had discovered a new world. Wen and Zhan were punished to silence. They originally thought that the process of being punished by kneeling would be boring. Unexpectedly, Feng Jinzi did not faint. It must have been severe pain, and there was no movement for a while. At this moment, he obviously felt relieved. However, being calm doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Wen Zhan and the others looked at him without saying a word, with expressionless expressions on their faces. However, they saw Feng Jinzi move for a moment and then stop moving, like a dying fish. Kurha couldn't help but frown. The legitimate son of the Feng family was in too poor physical condition to endure such a little hardship, and he looked even weaker than a woman. Was he really not reborn in the wrong body? After a while, Feng Jinzi finally started to move again, struggling to hold up his body little by little with his arms. His rapid breathing betrayed his pain, and he could also hear a bit of gnashing of teeth. There was a foggy darkness in front of him, and all the bones and flesh of Feng Jinzi's body were screaming in pain. He had always been pampered until he was 20 years old. In the past few days, he had really suffered all the hardships he had never suffered since he was a child. If it had been anyone else, they would have learned well. But Feng Jinzi was spoiled by Chu-Ching Huang in the past, so much so that he still thought that Chu-Ching Huang was just using this method to attract his attention, and that he would take revenge on the Feng family and the 3rd prince after being angered by him, trying to force him to surrender. Because the situation was stronger than others, Feng Jinzi stayed in Wutong Garden today and thought about it again and again. He decided to come over to show his goodwill to Chu-Ching Huang and temporarily put aside his status to live in peace with her. Even if she wanted to push the envelope and force him to move in with her, he will also satisfy it. However, before he could express his intention, she gave him a letter of divorce. Damn it, Chu-Ching Huang actually wrote him a letter of divorce. Feng Jinzi gritted her teeth and thought, she asked the emperor for the marriage in the first place, but now she wants to divorce him because of her temper? Why? Even if she wants to divorce, he should divorce her. There has never been a wife in this world who divorced her husband. She is simply deviant, arrogant, and simply a lunatic. Feng Jinzi wanted to tear up the divorce letter and throw it in her face. Feng Jinzi, don't pretend to be dead when you wake up, a cold and ruthless voice suddenly sounded. Chu-Ching Huang stood by the window and looked at him, with emotionless eyes like looking at an ant. I will give you half a day, it's time to pack your things. If you are still in my palace before dark, I will ask Fukang to send you back in person and tell the world that you have been abandoned. Feng Jin froze. It's really pitiful, Hong Yu sighed lowly. with a look of melancholy on his face, just like a concubine who fell out of favor in the palace. Once she lost the favor of the king, she was instantly abandoned. No wonder the world often said, the most ruthless emperor's family. Qi Ling turned to look at him with a strange look in his eyes. Are you tired of living? Do you even dare to criticize the affairs of the emperor's family? And in front of the eldest princess, do you think your life is too long? What Hong Yu said is wrong. When Zhang corrected him unhurriedly, emperor's concubines will not be abandoned after they fall out of favor. Abandonment means regaining freedom, but those concubines who fell out of favor did not regain their freedom. If they are lucky enough to be free, they will only stay in the cold palace miserably and spend the rest of their lives in loneliness. Some of them may die in their 20s. After all, the swamp of the harem is full of beauties and white bones. Hong Yu seemed to be frightened. Then I'd better not fight for favor. If I fall out of favor in the future, will I be relegated to the sidelines? As soon as these words came out, the other three fell silent for a moment. Into limbo? This seems to be a power that only the emperor has. Hong Yu Zhongjin said quietly, do you want to enter the palace to serve the emperor? Qi Ling reminded them, His Highness has punished us to silence us. Do you think the punishment of kneeling is too light and you want to be dragged out to beat us? Of course not. Hong Yu and Shen Kongjin finally calmed down. Feng Jinzi got up from the ground. He was glad that he could still stand. Although his whole body ached everywhere and his expression looked extremely pale and embarrassed, he had no other choice today and had to hold on to his energy to deal with Chu Qinghuang's difficulty. He cannot be divorced. The Hong family of the Minister of Household Affairs was confiscated, and something happened in the Jin Palace. His father wanted him to regain Chu Qinghuang's favor. Even if it was just a show, he had to continue acting. Otherwise, the road ahead for King Jin will be very difficult. Acting is not difficult for him. Looking up at Chu Qinghuang, he pursed his lips and said sadly, Your Highness, we are husband and wife. A day of marriage brings 100 days of grace. Today, Jinzi came here just to ask Your Highness to give me another chance, a chance to make up for the wrong words and wrong things I said before. Chu Qinghuang's eyes were cold, as if he was watching a clown trying hard to perform. Even if I did something wrong in the past, we are still husband and wife after all. Feng Jinzi lowered his eyes. It was all my fault before. I will change, Your Highness, please don't be so heartless, okay? Huh? Hong Yu was confused. Feng Jinzi was begging for mercy from His Highness in a low voice. He is indeed a man who can bend and stretch. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 59. Chu Qinghuang silently watched Feng Jinzi lowering his body, seeing his pride that he had to give up temporarily for the sake of profit, and his patience under the pressing situation. He obviously already knew about the confiscation of the Hong family and what happened in Prince Jin's mansion. As the cousin of Prince Jin, the Feng family and Prince Jin were close relatives on the same boat. If something happened to concubine Feng and her son, the Feng family would not end well. No matter which prince takes the throne in the future, the Feng family will definitely die. So Feng Jinzi had to endure it. After all, compared to the life and death glory of King Jin and the Feng family, the pride and dignity he was giving up now was nothing. Chu Qinghuang's eyebrows were indifferent. You want to make up for it? When Feng Jinzi heard that there was something going on, she was immediately shaken. She couldn't help but sneer in her heart that Chu Qinghuang was still the same Chu Qinghuang as before. As long as he lowered his body, she really showed that nymphomaniac look. However, no matter what he was thinking in his heart, Feng Jinzi had a sincere expression on his face. Yes, please give me a chance, Your Highness. In this case, I will give you a chance, Chu Qing Huang said indifferently. Take the divorce letter and kneel down from the gate of my palace with 3 steps and 9 steps. Kneel and walk to the gate of Feng's house. If you can do it, I will forgive you. Feng Jinzi's face was stiff, and all the pride and sneer disappeared in an instant. He looked at Chu Qing Huang in disbelief. Your Highness. If you can do it now. If you can't do it, pack up your things and get out immediately. Feng Jinzi seemed to be frozen by the icy weather of the 12th lunar month. He did not react for a long time. If you look closely, you will find that his face is livid and pale at this time, the expression of emotions after being extremely angry, death. Anger that could only be controlled by gritting his teeth erupted. Hong Yu lowered his head silently. Her Royal Highness the Princess is so kind. I also think His Highness is too gentle. Wen Zhan nodded. The eldest princess's residence is actually not that far from the Feng family. It only takes 2 streets. Even if you kneel down and walk back, it doesn't take half a day. Feng Jinzi looked at them coldly. No need for half a day's work? It's a shame they can speak out. Not to mention that he couldn't do it with his current physical strength. Even if he could do it, he would lose his face and would be embarrassed to see anyone from now on. It is already a kind of humiliation for the legitimate son of the Prime Minister's palace to enter the princess's palace for the sake of the throne of the 3rd prince. Now he has to kneel down from outside the princess's palace to the gate of Feng's family. People are coming and going on the street. The legitimate son of his family has to lose the face. If he really does it today, he will become the laughing stock of the whole city tomorrow. While Feng Jinzi was angry, Chu Qing Huang had already closed the window and obviously had no intention of giving him any more room to bargain. Her Royal Highness the Princess has given you a chance. Although it is a bit embarrassing, compared to the fate of Hong Shangshu's mansion, this is indeed extremely generous. Wen Zhan said unhurriedly. The prince-in-law didn't see it with his own eyes last night. Well, the son of the Hong family just said something to make His Highness dissatisfied, and His Highness led people to raid the Hong family. Compared with Hong Yu, the eldest princess still has feelings for the consort. Only said one sentence. Feng Jin was shocked. Although he knew that Chu Qing Huang had raided the Hong family last night, he didn't know the reason. He only thought that she wanted to take revenge on him, and he knew that the Hong family belonged to the 3rd prince, so she taking advantage of the Hong family. I didn't expect that Hong Yu was involved. Feng Jinzi stood stiffly for a long time. Compared with Hong Yu, Chu Qing Huang was indeed kind to him. After all, if this violent princess really hated someone in the past, she would almost kill him, and she had never shown mercy to anyone. Although what she did to Feng Jinzi during this period was not considered kind, compared to her usual temper, it was indeed considered merciful. Therefore, Feng Jinzi always had the illusion that Chu Qing Huang's purpose was to force him to surrender. However, Wen Zhan and Qi Ling seemed to be afraid that his misunderstanding was not deep enough, so they did not mind continuing to make his self-righteousness stronger. I wonder if the 3rd prince killed the princess. Will King Zhenbei come to Beijing personally to investigate the crime after he finds out? Wen Zhan frowned, as if he was worried. Qi Ling, is King Zhenbei your father? Your father doesn't care about this daughter. What's your attitude? Qi Ling said in a calm tone. The legitimate daughter is naturally more valuable. Besides, regardless of whether the daughter is favored or not, King Jin's behavior can be regarded as a provocation to King Zhenbei. This is not a matter of love, but a chess piece that maintains the in-law relationship. Kill, if you were the king of Zhenbei, would you be indifferent? Feng Jinzi's heart sank. Yes, the 3rd prince killed the princess. In addition to the need to give an explanation for the crime of murder to the people of the world, the most serious consequence of this incident is to turn against the king of Zhenbei. Last night, he lost the financial support of the Hong family, and this morning he lost the support of the king of Zhenbei's troops. In just one night, the 3rd prince had 2 of his arms broken off. He was now in a difficult situation. If he turned against Chu Qing Huang again, there would really be no possibility of a comeback. Your Royal Highness, the eldest princess, a person came quickly from outside the courtyard and knelt on one knee at the foot of the palace steps. Your Highness, news just came from the palace that the King of Jin was demoted and now became the King of Jin County, and was fined a salary of 100,000 yuan in the year. He will be punished with 30 imperial sticks. Feng Jin's feet softened, and her heart sank to the bottom. The prince was demoted to a county king? It seems that Prince Jin is one step further away from competing for the heir apparent Qi Ling's side. The other princes are all princes, but the third prince has become a county prince, which makes him inferior in status. Hong Yu's tone was innocent. Our eldest princess is being favored now. If your highness is willing to help him, the third prince actually has a chance to turn around. You two are going to die. Wen Zhan frowned. How can you discuss the affairs of the crown prince without authorization? Besides, who the princess wants to help is her own business. Do you also want to be dragged out and beaten by her? After the voice fell, Hong Yu and Qi Ling fell silent at the same time. Feng Jinzi unconsciously clenched his hands, struggling hard in his heart. Shen Zongjin said faintly, the prince consort should do what the princess said, otherwise the third prince may not have the bargaining chip to compete with other princes. Feng Jinzi pursed his lips, his face gloomy, and turned away without saying a word. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 60. Hong Yu turned to look at Feng Jinzi's leaving figure. When he walked out of the courtyard, he looked back and asked quietly, do you think he will kneel down and kowtow from the gate of Princess Mansion to Feng Mansion? Wen Zhan said calmly, yes. But if he does this, he will lose face. For those who put profit first, face is not valuable. Wen Zhan's voice was very calm. When necessary, family affection or dignity can actually be abandoned. His father used to be very fond of his legitimate son Wen Li, but for the position of Minister of the Ministry of Revenue, couldn't he still beat him at will? For people who are obsessed with profit, family affection and dignity are insignificant things. The third prince is now in a difficult situation, and Feng Jinzi knows very well that the only person who can save the situation for the third prince now is the eldest princess. Without the financial support of the Ministry of Household Affairs, and at the same time about to turn against the King of Jinbei, unless the Feng family was hopelessly stupid, they would never choose to have a stalemate with Chu Qing Huang. They don't have the courage. Oh, Hong Yu sighed lowly, the world of adults is really complicated. You have to scheme against others, protect yourself, and always think about how to act. I feel exhausted just thinking about it. At this point, his tone suddenly became brisk. I think it would be better to be the servant of Her Royal Highness the eldest princess. I can wear beautiful clothes, eat delicious food, and occasionally come over to compete for favors. My little life is extremely comfortable. As soon as he said this, the other three people all turned to look at him. What are you doing? Hong Yu was alert. Why are you all looking at me like that? Am I wrong? You are quite right, Qi Ling smiled, but now you should think carefully about what kind of excuse you should find to deal with the questions from Her Royal Highness the Princess. It seems that you still have no idea about the origin of the clothes you are wearing. No reasonable explanation was given. Competing for favor is not something that can be won casually. If you are not careful, you may even lose your life. Hearing this, Hong Yu looked down at the clothes on his body and couldn't help but mutter, I said I picked it up, but His Highness didn't believe it. What can I do? Do you think His Highness is a 3-year-old child? Hong Yu frowned, what should we do? If we can't give an explanation, will we have to kneel here all the time? Probably. Hong Yu's face fell, and he said dejectedly, I am delicate and frail, I can't bear it. Can't you bear it? Qi Ling sneered, you want to be a favored servant, but you can't bear this little hardship, so what else can you do? Hong Yu retorted, winning favors depends on beauty, not hard work. Qi Ling said, "Beauty is the least valuable here, your royal highness. Besides, Chu King Huang's heart is made of iron and stone, and I'm afraid there is no concept of pity for her yet." The four of them knelt at the foot of the palace steps, chatting incessantly. It seemed that they had forgotten Chu King Huang's order to keep silent. Even the content of their chat was a bit bold. However, Chu Qing Huang was too lazy to pay attention and just caught up on his sleep in the palace. It didn't last long and he woke up at noon. Fukang handed over a cup of tea at the right time. Feng Jinzi followed the master's wishes and knelt from outside the princess's residence to Feng's house. Many people watched the excitement along the way. Prime Minister Feng was so angry that he almost fainted. Chu Qing Huang was silent for a moment, then actually knelt down 3 times and kowtowed 9 times before going back. Should I say that Feng Jin is capable of bending and stretching, or is he too loyal to Chu Tianyan? Chu Qing Huang reached out to take the teacup, stood up and walked to the window. Looking at the 4 people who were still kneeling relaxedly after half a day, a dark color flashed in his eyes. Master really decides to forgive him. Who do you forgive? Chu Qing Huang asked casually. Oh, you mean Feng Jinzi. Fu Kang lowered his head and said, this subordinate has gone too far. Well, I intend to forgive him. Fu Kang pursed his lips and remained silent. There was no emotion on his usually dull face. Go down and ask someone to pack up all the things belonging to Feng Jinzi in Wutong Garden and send them to the Feng family in a carriage. Tell him that I have forgiven him for his previous offenses and will not pursue them again in the future, Chu Qing Huang ordered, and tell the Feng family that I have divorced Feng Jinzi. From now on, male and female marriages will have nothing to do with each other. Fu Kang was silent for a moment, and his expression was obviously a bit relaxed. Yes, I will do it now. With that said, he turned around and left, quickly opening the door and ducking out. Chu Qing Huang stood alone in front of the window for a while, taking a sip of tea with her eyes closed, quietly waiting for news from the palace. From Zuk Street to Changming Street, there were too many people gathered on the road, including children of powerful people, girls from aristocratic families, maids, servants, and of course the Jinwu guards who maintained order and patrolled the imperial city. Everyone looked at the disgraced and embarrassed heir of the Feng family with wide eyes and surprised expressions. I heard that the prince consort was divorced by Her Royal Highness the eldest princess. I wonder what kind of tricks he is up to today. Is this a way to atone for his sins? It's really sad that the dignified legitimate son of the Feng family ended up in such an embarrassing situation. I heard that Her Royal Highness the princess liked this consort in the past, but why suddenly? It's not that Feng Jinzi doesn't know good and bad, someone sneered. I heard that the eldest princess used to like Feng Jinzi very much, but this prince-in-law was ungrateful and either abused or humiliated her in front of the eldest princess. The princess's patience has run out. So, today's suffering is his own fault. From time to time, carriages would pass by on the long street. The dignitaries obviously liked to watch the excitement. When they passed by here, they all made way for Feng Jinzi. They were polite and humble, and resolutely did not hinder his sincerity of kneeling 3 times and knocking 9 times. A luxurious carriage stopped by the side, and the person in the carriage said casually, "Did the princess divorce Feng Jinzi?" The voice was as beautiful as the sound of nature, with an unparalleled noble and holy demeanor. Yes. A chuckle sounded, revealing a bit of laziness, a bit of carelessness, and coldness. Not bad. Not bad. What's not bad? The subordinates on both sides of the carriage had questions in their hearts, but they didn't dare to ask. They bowed their heads respectfully, just pretending not to hear this ambiguous compliment.